Hello and welcome to another Comics Burst from the Full Force podcast, sponsored by Distant Planet Comics and Collectibles, where we take an in-depth look at the newest G.I. Joe comics and related titles of the week, with me as your host, Chris, a real Anglican hero McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80, and joining me for this episode is Brian, a real Irish hero, Hickey. On this instalment of your absolutely favourite kind of burst, we look at issue number 278 of G.I. Joe, a real American hero. So without further ado, let's get stuck in, shall we?
I wish I could do "Way" as high pitched as Paddy does.
No one can do anything as high pitched as Paddy does. In fact, when he talks, my dog's ears prick up. Untold Tales Part 3. Things get frantically frigid for the Joes when Snowjob, Blizzard, Iceberg, Covergirl, Frostbite and Lowlight embark on a desperate mission into Fruzenland. As told by living legend Larry Hama, featuring cool as ice artwork by superstar artist Dan Schoening, Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers. And also the description in the actual comic states, join living legend Larry Hama and his team of superstar artists as they reveal never-before-seen adventures featuring the heroes and villains of the G.I. Joe, a real American hero universe. Roll call, Snowjob, Blizzard, Iceberg, Covergirl, Frostbite and Lowlight. Creative team, as always, writer Larry Hama, artist Dan Schoening, colours Luis Antonio Delgado, letters Neil Uyatake, senior editor Tom Waltz, editor Megan Brown, and research assistant Diana Davis. Now, Brian, let's get stuck into these covers first for this issue. Before we get into the issue, I know we're buzzing about this one, but let's start with cover A. It's Dan Schoening, colours by Luis Antonio Delgado, and it depicts Snowjob hossing down the old hill in the snow on his skis with a lot of stuff going on behind him. What do you think about this one?
I mean, this is brilliant. What I think this, and I know we're going to get into the issue, I think this is the action before the issue kicks off. I think this is because obviously this will start in the aftermath of battle. I think this is them going into battle. And what a fantastic scenario. You've got you've got the jet skis, you've got, is it Lowlight coming in on
it's parachute, yeah.
And I think there's two snow cats in action here, I think. And there's only one snow cat in the story, so that would kind of support my theory that this is some pre-story action, and Snowjob, doing this thing, front and center, superb.
What I would say, actually, is I think there's been a slight error in play on the cover here, and it looks like, obviously, because CoverGirl's in this one. Now, CoverGirl was obviously synonymous with the Wolverine, that kind of vehicle. I think she's in that, and obviously that would be incorrect, because I kind of feel like it's basically, like you say, we found out at the beginning of the issue, and we're kind of having to do this because obviously we want to talk about the cover, but in relation to the issue, we know that they've attacked these Terradrome installations in Fruzenland. And again, we'll get to that kind of all the details with that one. But they do say that one snowcat was nixed, and Blizzard Blizzard was in that one. And on the cover here, you've got Blizzard using his backpack ski setup, which is a great little addition on the toy. If you've ever had Blizzard. I think they come not only with the regular version, but the Tiger Force version too. And you can put his skis on his backpack, and his backpack has got handlebars on it, and he can use it as a vehicle, like a toboggan type scenario. So it's really cool that they've kind of Dan's added that onto the cover. But that's not to say that he doesn't, get back into the Snowcat, or this is shortly after. That Snowcat has been destroyed and Snowjob has pulled him out of the wreckage. So there's a bit of backstory there that you can kind of lead into. But I agree with you. I think it is just before that all the actual action kicks off, and it's them taking out the Terradromes. But something I do want to mention on this one is Dan is famous for doing work on the real Ghostbusters. And, Ghostbusters, the comic, and Turtles and Transformers. But this does remind me of the animated Ghostbusters styling, and also therefore it has a real G.I. Joe animated vibe to it.
Totally. That was one of the comments I was kind of saving for when we get into it. It feels like looking at Sunbow G.I. Joe in comic book form.
Absolutely, which is something I've wanted for so long. Like, I like the mixture. Like this actual issue, again, we'll get to it when we talk about it. We'll go through the covers first, but I'll remember that to say that because I've got it in my notes. But yeah, the time period that this takes place is very obscure. We don't know exactly, but there are a few kind of signposts as to when we could probably think it's being kind of taking place. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. Moving on then, and I've got to admit, I love that Dan Schoening cover is lovely and really cool, and it's got loads of action on it. But moving into cover B, and we've got another kind of, now this is like an homage cover again by Jamie Sullivan, colours by Cullen Davis as well. So shout out to Cullen Davis, who is Diana's husband. And so that's interesting that he got to do the colours on this cover. We're looking at this particular one. We've got Low Light on the left hand side. He's got his his sniper rifle in play, and to the right of us and to the left of him we have Baroness, Cobra Commander and Destro in his sights. Now Low Light is in this issue, but none of those characters are, so this is a little bit of a cheat. But what do you think about this kind of cover?
I mean, I like Jamie Sullivan's art style, and I think this is the variant that I got. And I think it's a pretty cool illustration of Low Light. Yeah, it doesn't really tie in with the overall story, other than Low Light is a an important character in this. But it's a great illustration of great character from the G.I. Joe universe.
Absolutely, and again, I think it homages that Punisher cover from or was it Spider-Man and Punisher's on the cover? I can't remember the exact details, but that's what it reminds me of. Basically Punisher's got certain characters in his sights, and you see that on the cover, so it kind of reminds me of that. But this is, I really like it, and Low Light looks amazing on that cover. Anyway, yeah, and also shout out to Jamie Sullivan. I hope you're feeling better, pal. I actually last night spoke to him on Facebook and also ordered that print of his, which is Ace in the Sky Striker looking down at the Night Ravens.
Yes.
It's probably one of my favourite pieces of G.I. Joe art in the modern era of Joe art, and I had to buy and grab a print of it. And so thanks to Jamie, big shout out to him, and cracking cover. Okay, next up, and the final cover on this run is a retailer incentive, and it's the, as always, kind of standard issue John Royal, Jagdish Kumar and James Afraidy. And this one's really, really cool. It's got Snowjob and Iceberg with the Snowcat in the background. And it is they're both firing with being hit all over the place with bullet fire everywhere. This is, again, really dynamic, explosive cover, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, John Royal stuff he never fails to deliver some awesome covers. And I'm getting spoiled here. These last, few issues, he's been actually illustrating stuff that's in the story. So this looks like it could be taken straight out of this particular story arc, or maybe again it could be part of that action that happens before the actual events kick in. It's pretty gas. I mean, Iceberg and Snowjob laying into the enemy. It's action packed. Absolutely love this one. This would be my favorite of the covers.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid one. The colours are really beautiful, actually. Great work from James Afraidy. Great colouring by James Afraidy on that. And also Jagdish Kumar. Great work on, I'm guessing he either did some aspects of the art or maybe even inked it. So, excellent work by everyone involved there. Okay, so that be the covers. Let's get stuck into the actual comic. So we have, and obviously this is going to take a explanation time here, but we start in Frusenland, and Frusenland was a fictional place, a fictional country that Larry created for the original Marvel run, and it first debuted in, I think, 67, 68. It's around that time that this particular story, starts with Frusenland being the main place, shall we say, for the story to happen. Now, what is kind of interesting is that it's basically a small island, and we're guessing, I think, in northern Europe is where it is, because obviously a little bit further up than say Scandinavia and stuff like that. That's where I believe it's kind of taking place. It originally was utilized in that issue, in the issues roughly 67, 68. And basically, the Prime Minister of Frusenland is being kind of not harassed, but he's being sold terradromes for the country by Cobra. and they're really trying to, shift these terradromes on. And he's kind of like, I think initially turns it away, but eventually Cobra set up their terradromes in Fruzenland. And with that, we come back to this particular... And also, I think one of those issues was the first inclusion of the Battle Force 2000, and that will become clear in a short moment as we kind of go through the issue. But we start off with this particular issue, and it's terradromes are on fire, Cobra Wolves are on fire, and returning back from patrol is this lead snow serpent in an ice saber with a column of Cobra Wolves with him. And he turns up and, he's kind of like, what the fudge has been going on here?
What a way to open a story. It's obvious immediately that we're in the aftermath of some major action.
Yeah.
And as you say, this kind of Ice Viper comes back. They've been out on a 3-hour patrol. So they've been away from the base for a long time.
I'll have to correct you there. Brian, because there are no Ice Vipers in this issue. Or there are, but they're unseen, because the Cobra Wolf was actually manned by an Ice Viper in the toy. And yet you never actually see who's in the Cobra Wolf vehicles. If you like, I've looked through this, I've looked at every page trying to see if there's any evidence of someone driving a wolf, and I can't for the life of me find it. So I'm thinking that there are Ice Vipers in the issue. They're just hidden behind that cockpit. Anyway, it's a snow serpent, but carry on.
Yes, snow serpent. And you're right, I'm going through it here, and when he's talking to the drivers of the wolves, you can't actually see them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can through the glass. It's a bit blurry. But yes, the snow serpent lets us know that they've been away on a 3-hour patrol, and when they come back, there are terradromes, and it looks like there's a couple of terradromes at least here.
Yeah.
They're in flames, and I see a lot of wolves kind of burnt out in the snow. And someone reports that they were attacked, and he goes, "Spare me the obvious." And the real damage for them here is that he's informed that their hostage has been rescued by G.I. Joe. So I think it's Dr. Tang.
Jen Tang. Yeah, Jen. Sorry, we're on first name basis, me and Jen Tang. But yeah. But
so obviously she was their hostage. We find out, later in the issue that she was key to helping them with their terradrome operations in this area, because she's an expert on the sort of volcanic substrata in the region. And she's been rescued by G.I. Joe, and there's nothing left in the base that they're able to pursue G.I. Joe with. So one of the first things that he wants to get a sense of if it's still operational are the fire bats within the terradromes. And, one is kind of operational, but needs a lot of repairs, and the rest are totaled. So immediately he rounds up his kind of team of wolves, and they head off in pursuit, and he leaves a few snow serpents behind to help with the repairs on the firebat.
What I love about that is that they use the version 2 snow serpent as if it's the main snow serpent is the standard version 1 snow serpent, and then the kind of not lesser but the kind of lower ranked grunts are in the okay, I've just found our first Ice Viper. And it is on the page just before the wolves move out. He's opening the cockpit and he's getting in. And I can see it. It's in the middle of the page, just the last page, just before we go into the Joe's section. And if you look, you can see from behind, he's in the bottom left-hand corner of the middle panel, and he's holding the cockpit of the wolf open. And that is an Ice Viper. I think it's the only example in the issue where we actually see an Ice Viper. And I'm really happy I've spotted that, because that was killing me earlier.
I think there is another Ice Viper.
So even though I said there were no Ice Vipers in this issue, there's our first shot of an Ice Viper. I'll tell you what, I scoured this and could not for the life of me find an example. And yet there he is, hidden away in that middle panel. But anyway, maybe we'll find more as we go on, Brian. Hint, hint. We will definitely find more as we go on. So the column moves out, and we switch on over to the G.I. Joe team in one Snowcat and the Dominator. And previously, as the Techno Viper was giving the information to the Snow Serpent, we heard that they destroyed one snowcat, as we mentioned before, and the driver bailed out. And then we get a little bit more information kind of going through, with the Joes. But first off, we see that Snowjob's got a bit of like a bandage on his head. And he was actually involved in pulling Blizzard out of the wreckage, who he's also getting patched up. He's got an injury on his arm. It's only a flesh wound, though, so that's good. But we do get kind of like a little bit of information going on here. So in the Dominator, this is an interesting little thing. The Dominator was a Battle Force 2000 vehicle, right? And they didn't actually have drivers or anything, but it is actually specifically a snow tank. So it's great that they use that vehicle. There's a host of kind of winter-based vehicles in G.I. Joe, but the Dominator, it's nice they use a Dominator because it's not often really seen or utilised. It was during the Battle Force 2000 years when they were introduced in that Frusenland issue. There's Larry kind of with a big homage there to Battle Force 2000. Now, what isn't also interesting about this is that Battle Force 2000 were all wiped out, including Avalanche, who was a Battle Force 2000 winter specialist. And I thought it would have been really cool, obviously, to show Avalanche in this issue, unless we are talking, this is beyond that time period when they perish in the issues in Marvel. And we're looking, this is a future mission beyond those issues in 67 and 68. So that's kind of telling me that this is beyond that, really just based on the fact that they're using a Dominator with no Avalanche. So that's something that I'm thinking there.
I think you could be 100% spot on there, Chris, because later in the issue, maybe we'll wait till we get there, right?
But anyway, they use a Dominator tank. There's the Avalanche connection. There's the Battle Force 2000 connection. And that's why I think this is probably pushed a bit further on in the timeline of the first time we saw Frusenland, which I find it quite interesting. This is clearly a more desolate, hostile area of Frusenland, because obviously we do see in the original issues that there's some very much kind of icy, snowy areas, but obviously it's also just a standard northern European kind of country. So, the areas that aren't completely covered in snow as well. So, but anyway, that's by the by, and just a few details I wanted to mention. But anyway, we get a bit more info here of what's actually going on. CoverGirl is obviously driving the Dominator with Lowlight and Snowjob inside the nice, warm, cozy area inside the Dominator. And then on the Snowcat, you have Dr. Tang and Frostbite in the cockpit. And then you have Iceberg and Blizzard out on the top of the Snowcat. And Dr. Tang actually mentions that she feels bad that they're in there all warm and the fellow soldiers are stuck out there in the cold. And Frostbite says, they don't care. They don't mind the cold. Don't worry, they live for it.
That's pretty cool. And of course, Dr. Tang does reveal that she was abducted while in Helsinki. So that would kind of, tie in with your theory that Frusenland is kind of in that Scandinavian type of, neck of the woods, which is pretty cool.
Definitely. I think that really does narrow the field there. And also that reminds me, it's completely off topic, but Brian and I had this idea to do a G.I. Joe map that showed where all the characters were from and all that kind of stuff. We're still probably going to pursue it eventually, but it's one of those things that is just so involved, isn't it? Like trying to work out where certain areas are on the map, and you'd have to effectively build a new map to actually kind of really and take liberties, obviously, but to really give a good impression of all these different countries.
That is going to be a very exciting project when we get round to that, but it's going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Forward to sharing that with all the G.I. Joe and Action Force fans out there.
I've already done all the spreadsheet work. It's just unfortunately, the hardest part is now your job.
Chris has done his bit, but I still haven't done mine.
But mate, I totally understand. I mean, we've got all sorts coming. But anyway, back to the issue at hand. Basically, what happens is a issue starts appearing in the Snowcat, and it looks as though the event starts smoking. So Iceberg notices it, and Frostbite has to stop the convoy, and he has to fix it, and it's going to take a while. So they realise they're being followed and pursued. So it's like, right, everyone, we're going to have to attack them. So we're going to have to take the advantage, and we'll have to go at the Cobra columns, take them out. and Dr. Tang has to stay there with Lowlight, and the Dominator goes off with Iceberg and Blizzard in tow, and they attack this column of Cobras.
You know, what's like, we're taking our time kind of going through this, and we're pointing out all these kind of connections back to previous issues and stuff. But really, we're very kind of, quickly,
it's fast paced. Yeah.
Story, and it's so fast paced what's happening here. I mean, there's a real sense of pursuit. It's the Joes have got out of Dodge quick. They've rescued Dr. Tang. They're getting out of there real fast, and Cobra are hot on their heels. And there's a real, you can feel the tension, and the pacing is just perfect to kind of match that. And of course, now there's going to be some major action. The Cobra column have to kind of go into single file to pass through a ravine, and it just leaves them really vulnerable. And we get this fantastic scene where we get Blizzard and Iceberg on their skis coming up behind the Cobra column.
Yeah. Some
frag grenades to take out the wolf at the rear, and then the wolf up front turn to try and shoot at them, coming right into the path of the Dominator, which is coming from the opposite direction, and they just knock lumps out of the Cobra column. The Snow Serpent, who's leading the pack, his vehicle is damaged in the attack.
Yeah.
So the Joes, it's a real hit and run attack for the Joes. They're flying back to catch up with the rest of the guys repairing the Snowcat, and Cobra has to regroup then.
I was just going to say as well, like something that happens just before they start their attack on the Cobra column is we get a little flashback to the Terradrome, and this is important because this is like foreshadowing for what actually happens a bit later on. And the AVAC pilot, who we all know in the history of G.I. Joe is always an asshole. In fact, AVAC pilots friggin' all of the pilots in Cobra seem to have a real chip on their shoulder. And this AVAC pilot is basically giving the Snow Serpent version 2s who are left behind to help. He's giving them all sorts of crap. And he's like, why are you two idiots dragging your feet? We need to get this firebat operational ASAP. And one of them says, like, we're working as fast as we can. And the other one whispers, let it ride. The AVAC pilots are all like that. And it's like, it's really, it's an interesting bit of foreshadowing, but it's important because as we go on, this kind of continues throughout the issue where we see the AVAC pilot giving these guys a lot of shit. And, he really shouldn't be, because these guys are also, responsible for getting this firebat back up and running and getting him in the air. So that's kind of important. Anyway, something else I wanted to mention here as well was that I'm loving the kind of real close authenticity in things like Iceberg's gun, like his famous huge gun that he has as an action figure. They've given it to him here as well, this massive like machine, like M60 kind of gun. And also Blizzard's like wrapped rifle as well, like he's got one of those on him too. So they've really gone close to the source material here, and it's really it's noticed, it's noted, and it's very much appreciated. But obviously we've got Iceberg on skis. It makes sense he's using skis. The original figure didn't come with them, but that wasn't he hardly came with anything. The original figure, I think it was just the gun he came with. Correct me if I'm wrong, viewers. I don't think he actually had a backpack originally. Again, I might just be misremembering that, but that I always found that quite interesting that someone that you'd expect to have loads of accessories just comes with a gun. But anyway, carrying on, as you said, Snow Serpent has to kind of like radio back, and also has to jury rig a ski which is damaged on his Ice Saber. So he kind of salvages a ski from another Cobra Wolf. From a Cobra Wolf, and uses it on his Ice Saber. And
we do get our Ice Viper, our second Ice Viper appearance in this issue.
Good spot, by the way. This is an amazing spot by you, mate.
So I mean, it's a blink and you miss it, and because this is so fast paced, like you're flying through these panels, but yeah, he's there behind the canopy.
I'm so happy that we're seeing Ice Vipers, and that, I've no idea why that makes me so happy. But even though it's two very blink and you'll miss it panels, it's just, again, it adds to the authenticity. We don't have to see everything clearly, but like I was kind of thinking, but the Cobra Wolf, the Ice Vipers are synonymous with the Cobra Wolf, and I'm not surprised I missed that one in the cockpit. I am surprised I missed the other one, even though it's from behind and it's it could be very easily missed. I'm still mad at myself because I went through this with a fine-tooth comb, and I was like, there must be an example of an ice viper somewhere. And I came up short. So looking at it again with you now, I'm really surprised they've just they're so prominent to me now.
Well, like you say, there's so much attention to detail gone into this. This is the ultimate G.I. Joe snow adventure.
It really is. I mean, the only way this could have been better is if they'd thrown in a couple more characters, like, again, if Avalanche wasn't already passed away, if we're dealing with a certain time period, fair enough. But, I'd love to see, like Snowstorm. And he's another one that's a little bit further along in terms of release. But, to kind of really cram some more characters in like that. But he's done really well, and he's got the main crew there, hasn't he, really?
100%. Well, I mean, our Joes have had this very kind of, successful sort of hit and run. The Snow Serpent has sent the remaining wolves to continue the pursuit while he jerry rigs and a ski onto his vehicle, and then we get a flashback to not a flashback, but then it switches over to the Terrordrome, and the AVAC pilot is still being an a-hole, and
it should be a-hole. That's what is an a-hole pilot is what he should be. Yeah.
But he says, did any of you morons check the shotgun shells on the weapons release racks?
I love that shot of them just looking at him in the bottom corner of that panel, just like looking over like, F you, pal. F you.
And he's sitting there, he's just standing around doing nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, of course, it cuts back to the Snowcat, which is damaged. So Frostbite looks like to have the he's almost finished with the repairs. Snowjob is keeping an eye out for Cover Girl and the guys returning from their hit and run attack, and he sees them with two wolves hot on their tail. It's really at this point where they know they kind of have to get in there to give Cover Girl and the guys a bit of backup. And we didn't mention this, but Cover Girl tells us, the reader, a little bit earlier that she's out of ammo, effectively.
Yeah. Snowcat's got like one ski torpedo left. They've got small arms fire, but other than that, they're drained of ammo because of obviously it's really, really good storytelling, this one, because they've had to attack the Terrordromes in the first place, and they've had to cause as much damage, and then they've had to book it to the LZ. That was the original plan, but all these other things that have happened where they've had to go on the offensive again means they've depleted their ammunition at this stage. So it's a really well balanced, well told story, and just makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Which is another thing that it seems really obvious and simple, but that really adds to the quality of this issue.
Absolutely. Like, if they had inexhaustible amounts of ammunition and were just kicking ass the whole way, it would just be too easy. So, Larry's made it difficult for the Joes to get out of Dodge.
In a believable way as well.
In a believable way. And you mentioned as well at the beginning of this, Chris, that this particular terrain in Frozen Land looked really desolate and harsh compared to when it was mentioned in previous episodes. And of course, it has to be because there's no way in hell they could get a landing zone anywhere near those Terrordromes.
Yeah, it's mentioned, isn't it?
So far away, they have to travel so far.
Someone mentions it. I think it's Snowjob moans at the fact that they couldn't get a C-130 closer to the location of attack, basically. Yeah, so yeah, it's, and again, there's so much about this issue. Everything to me so far is just it's just singing to me. And I think it's because there's a really healthy balance of pace in there. The visuals match, you're reading it and moving through it at the pace that it's kind of necessary to do so. And we get this point, like you say, where the wolves are attacking the Dominator. The Dominator swerves away from them, and and Snowjob mentions that when he's looking through the binoculars. He says that looks like she's drawing them away from. She's drawing the Cobra Wolves away from their position. So they're like, right, well, the Snowcat's fixed, so let's go and help them. So again, Lowlight and Dr. Tang are left in the basically where they were. It's really interesting, this, because Lowlight is hardly being used at the moment, but there's a reason for that. And he's effectively protection for Dr. Tang at the moment. So, they go off to help. You've got Iceberg and Blizzard holding onto the back of the Dominator, firing at the wolves with their machine guns, and which is, again, it's like something out of Back to the Future when Marty McFly grabs the back of the car and on his skateboard. It reminds me of that. And that's where the Snowcat turns up, fires the last rocket, the torpedo, takes out the wolf, but not its weapons. Oh no, there's another wolf that turns up, isn't there? I tell a lie.
Two wolves, yeah, two wolves in pursuit. And just before the snowcat heads off, right, to go and help the Dominator, Snowjob says, "Let's do this, Frostbite." And he goes, "Eager for payback, are you?" And we all know what payback is.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's the reference to the Battle Force 2000 team being wiped out.
It could be. It could be a very, not loose, but very long way around kind of connection to that. Absolutely. I think probably in the issue, because obviously it doesn't seem like Larry is making a big deal out of Battle Force 2000 other than using the Dominator. And I don't know, obviously there were way more other characters that passed away as well in that era, in that time period. So, eager for payback in general, or is it just eager for payback in the fact that it's done, they've done damage to him and Blizzard? It's hard to tell, but it would make a lot of sense if there was more to it than that, yeah.
So with the Snowcat takes out one of the wolves, and they have one missile left. But there's a problem with the firing mechanism. It's jammed.
Yeah.
But the Dominator comes back around to the rescue, and it crashes into the second wolf.
Yeah. Basically
demobilizing both the Dominator and the wolf. But the wolf still has its weapon systems operational until Blizzard and Iceberg show up with their last frag grenades and finish it off.
Brilliant.
So we have this kind of regroup with the team. Obviously, not with Dr. Tang and Lowlight because they're still lying low away from the action. And next thing, the Firebat comes in and they have nothing to defend themselves with.
Exactly. What's interesting about this that I've only just noticed is I think when they first revealed some of the pages from this, when Tom Waltz, I think it was on Twitter, first revealed images of the pages, this page was in that image and it didn't have an AVAC in the pilot seat. It had a Techno Viper, and everyone mentioned that. They were all like, why is there a Techno Viper in the cockpit? And it looks as though changes might have been made to the issue to make more sense. And obviously the Techno Viper giving the information at the beginning, it makes sense that an AVAC pilot is the one that actually gets in this thing and flies it. That, to me, is a really interesting change that they've done. Clearly, quite a way into it. Maybe Larry saw it and was like, oh no, I didn't intend for it to be a Techno Viper. I actually intended it to be a AVAC pilot. And maybe that was just missed in communication or something. But I find that quite interesting. But again, I have to say, I'm glad they changed it because it makes way more sense with the AVAC pilot being a bit of a D than the Techno Viper, who was being, yelled at by the Snow Serpent originally. So anyway, the Firebat is closing in on them. Frostbite then rushes up to the weapons rack on the back of the Snowcat, and he effectively tries to bypass the short in the firing circuit. And Snowjob is sitting there going, I kind of need it now. We need to kind of quickly fire at this guy. He's not firing at us, and I don't know why. And then we see that obviously the shotgun shells aren't working, and they didn't double check, and they didn't do it because he was a dick, and now they've basically put him in a position where he's about to be fragged. And Frostbite fixes it in time. Snowjob fires. Fwoosh and Badoom, and the Firebat and AVAC pilot is no more. That is not the end of the story, though, is it, Brian?
No, because they still have to get back to Dr. Tang and Lowlight. And of course, where the hell is this Snow Serpent who's been kind of leading the charge the whole time? Well, I can tell you where he is. He's hightailing it straight towards Dr. Tang and Lowlight, and he's taking him down.
Well, he's got a lot of he's got a lot of ammunition, and they've got nothing.
He is absolutely loaded to the gills with munitions. And we get this great shot now. Now we get Lowlight starts to come into his own here.
Yeah.
He's up on the ridge. He's got the sniper gun set up. He's looking through his sights. And that's not an Ice Viper?
No, it's not. It's a version 2 Snow Serpent. But yeah. I will say, just before Lowlight gets set up, there's obviously the whole point is they're driving past. They're having to hot foot it, and they can't stop, so they have to drive past. And Tang and Lowlight have to jump on as it's moving. Tang gets on, and then Blizzard says, "Where's Lowlight? Wasn't he right behind me?" And that basically puts Frostbite in this position. He has to make a command decision. He is the guy in charge of this mission, which I think is really cool as well. Like, they've given Frostbite the command on this mission. So he has to say, do I jeopardize lives? Do I have to like go back and find him? Or do we keep going to the LZ? And Lowlight is like, he's rushed off to get in this sniper position. And here we see that this is really cool because the Snow Serpent's like, they left a sniper behind on the ridge. And then at the moment he's saying that, Frostbite's made his decision. He's going back. He's going back for Lowlight. He's responsible for everybody on this mission. And if there's a chance he's going to survive, he's going to go back and get him no matter what happens. Which is again a lovely added element to this story. It's like we all go home or nobody goes home. That's what it feels like, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And of course, while Lowlight doesn't know that his crew are coming back for him, and we see that he's while he's been spotted by the Snow Serpent, he says, "Look, it's the sniper's on the ridge, but it's an impossible shot. Move vehicle, narrow view slit. He's never going to make it." And with that, the co-pilot, Snow Serpent, bullet through the head. He's gone. And then you see the lead Snow Serpent just throwing his carcass out.
Pushing him out.
And it says, "Lucky shot. He can't possibly duplicate it."
And he turns to him. He's going to shoot. He's going to take him out with all of the weapons he's got. And then we flash back to... It's like, again, these are quick cuts on the same page. We flash over to the rest of the Joes, and everyone's in agreement. We can't leave them behind. We're Joes. We take care of our own. We're going back for Lowlight, etc., etc. They swing round. Okay, let's do it. And you see the kind of snowcat spin round in the snow, just as Lowlight fires his shot, and then it goes back to the snowcat. And they're like, no sign of Lowlight, and that's the Ice Saber coming straight at us. And then here we go. This is it. It's game. This is it. It's all or nothing. We've used up all our frags. We've got are small arms. They're all getting their guns ready. Frostbite's ready to just plow into them. Even Dr. Tang's holding a pistol, I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Tang's been given a pistol as well. It's like everyone just get ready. We're about to this is the end of the line. And it's again, there's a real honourable, everyone's in it as well. Everyone's involved. Everyone's agreed that this is what's going to happen. And lo and behold.
Well, the Ice Saber just pulls up, and cool as you like, window comes down, and there's Lowlight. Climb in, plenty of room, and the heater works.
Amazing. And I've got to tell you, it's such a you kind of expected that to happen. It's got that kind of expectation of the Law and Order issue, the same kind of thing where Larry takes you one direction, but then it's clearly you knew it was going to happen. You knew Law and Order were going to be fine. You knew they were going to come out of that, and you knew Order wasn't dead. But it was a lovely way of doing it in that issue. And the same thing here. You knew Lowlight wasn't going to miss. He's the best sniper in not in G.I. Joe, in the universe. The guy is he's not going to miss those shots. And lo and behold, he comes out on top, and the Joes are safe and mission complete. Yeah.
Yeah, it's do you know what? This is what G.I. Joe comics are all about.
1,000%.
Rob Liefeld, pick up a copy of 278, read that, and take all your superstar artists and inkers, and all of you pick up 278 and read that, and that's what you've got to live up to. The story does not have to be complicated. It just has to be a well thought out story. There's a great setup here, loads of lovely little details and nods packed into the pages of this, and it all wraps up really, really well. Larry's he's placed all the setups throughout the story to give you that ending so that it's totally believable. It's just a great piece of writing, and one of the best pieces from Larry in a long time.
I 100% agree. I think Untold Tales has been something that I've been looking forward to, and in the complete opposite way of Dead Games kind of been a bit disappointing. This has not just lived up to my expectation. It's blasted past it. We started off with that was it 276, and that was the issue where Snake Eyes, Scarlet, Stalker, and Scoop, and a couple, and the Freedom Fighters found Dr. Huntkinder. There was loads of other little bits and pieces going on in that issue, and there was a tragic end to it. There was a really interesting kind of story in there, and it was great and brilliant. Then we had the Law and Order issue, and it was a bit more light-hearted, but it was fun, and it was again like really well told and a cool little like side story within the G.I. Joe universe, within actually the IDW G.I. Joe universe. And now we've had this issue, and it just keeps like getting better and better. And this one for me is one of the best issues I've read in God knows how long. It is the perfect way of doing G.I. Joe. You get a group of specialists in their field with that particular mission, and Winter's great because they're so obvious. Like the characters choose themselves. They've thrown in Lowlight and Covergirl in there as well, which is really cool that they've included those guys because they needed a sniper for that part of the story. So obviously Lowlight fits that perfectly, and he can go in any situation. He's clearly great at that stuff, and including Covergirl. Again, a brilliant a brilliant use of the character. She's driving the Dominator. That she is a driver. She is a mechanic and a driver by trade, and a model. But more importantly, in this particular mission, she does her part, and she does amazingly well in that first attack. And then she takes out that Cobra Wolf by slamming into it, and then hossing out and getting into the snow. She's really integral in this issue. And that's another aspect, is each character means something. Every character is necessary. Every character does something important. Snowjob obviously rescues Blizzard, but also does loads more in the issue. Blizzard and Iceberg are integral in taking out a number of enemy combatants.
Yes.
Frostbite is huge. He's commanding the mission and also driving the snowcat. Exactly. Repairing all of the... Yeah, exactly. Massively important in that case. Dr. Tang is being protected, but you don't feel like she was treated brutally by Cobra, she says at one stage, but she's taken everything in stride. She does not act like some sort of damsel in distress. Even though that there is elements where it's like you have to stay here because you don't have what are you going to do in this situation, so that makes a lot of sense. But there she is at the end with a bloody pistol in her hand, like ready to die for G.I. Joe, and it's just like again, like all of the characters do something. All of the bad character, all of the Cobra characters are integral. It's just a beautifully written. There's previous history to the issue before you go into it. That attack on the Terradrome. That's important, and just as important in the story as the actual story is, as the actual one we're given at face value. So, and obviously Lowlight is the hero at the end for, just being cool as you like, man. Just like, I'll tell you what.
Cool as ice.
Yeah, exactly. You guys go on. I've got this. I'll just run up to this ridge, set up, and take out this guy. Take out this snow serpent in the most ridiculous shot ever. And both shots, both kills, done. And then gets the vehicle and drives up to them and helps out. I actually think there's another story in this, and that's the bit where Lowlight shoots. What actually happens? Because in my head, I'm thinking that he misses the shot. No, he doesn't miss the shot. He doesn't kill the snow serpent, right? He just does enough. And then he goes down to the ice saber, which is now stopped, and the snow serpent's kind of scrambling to get a gun, and he has to kill him close combat or some close quarters. I think there's more to it than we're given. I think there's more there's more story in this.
This is definitely one of the best Larry stories in a long time. I mean, we worked through Snake Hunt, which had some great moments. We call out some great moments there, but as an overall arc, we just felt it really wasn't pulling the same kind of impact maybe that some of the other previous issues or previous stories had. And this feels like a real return to form. I think Larry's really enjoying these kind of one-offs and jumping back into the G.I. Joe history to kind of inspire some of these stories.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to come out of this really refreshed and be able to go back into, say, the present day G.I. Joe mythos and get some great stories and great character development going again in the aftermath of Snake Hunt.
Absolutely. Well, I suppose we should give our potatings at this stage. I also want to mention as well the art by Dan Schoening is beautiful. The art and the colours.
Yes.
It's just really, really, really bright and vibrant and very animated, very Sunbow-esque. Although obviously not too Sunbow-esque because obviously it's in the Marvel universe. But I just think it's really good, and I'd love to see more More stuff from Dan and Larry together as a, in that particular team up. But yeah, just really, really good. I mean, what are you giving it though? What's your overall potating rating?
Going with the full 5 here. Well done, lads. Top job. Oh, 5 squads.
We've joked in the past about bags of spuds and multiple. This is the reason why Ireland went through a potato famine, because this comic took all of the potatoes in the entire land. That is what happened, in my opinion. This, mate,
Jesus.
This is a beauty of an issue. Absolutely top G.I. Joe storytelling. And it hits all the right notes because it is that special missions vibe. And it's the best way to tell G.I. Joe stories, because the cast of characters do not belong in the background. They belong in the spotlight. And we need to see everyone getting their day in the sun. And in this case, we get a really good winter issue. Next issue, man, I've got real high expectations because it is an aerial battle classic, and I can't wait.
That's going to be amazing. Because
in the past we've discussed our love for aerial battles, haven't we? Like in issues, there's been some absolute beauties in the Marvel run. And I've talked about it in Talking Joe in the past. It's one of my favorite, some of my favorite issues are the aerial battle ones. We've got our own aerial battle stuff in the Marvel UK comics, and some of those issues are fantastic as well. So I'm so excited about this. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this one, mate. This has gone on for 8. This is like an hour's worth, but
an hour well spent talking about the right kind of good stuff for G.I. Joe. And just one final thing on the potatings. If you could get to the end of a rainbow, you would find issue 278 sitting on top of a crock of potatoes. Right?
With a box of an Unlucky Charms stuffed in there as well. Amazing. Anyway, this issue will probably be out on St. Patrick's Day by the time I finish editing it and everything. So, Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. I've loved this issue. I can't wait for our next burst, which will be Castlefall. That's
next week.
That's next week. Obviously, it's already out and people have already read it, but we're going to be doing that one. We're going to be busting into that one and delving into the review of that bad boy. Spoiler alert, we really enjoy it. But also then following that, we've got Dead Game 4. Fingers crossed that we can get an uptick in that issue a little bit in terms of what's been going on so far. Hopefully we can get something out of that one. And then following that, we'll finally finish ROM, I guess, eventually. So, yes. Yeah, we're getting there, guys. And also 279's coming out, and then Dead Game 5 will be out. So we've still got a lot of issues to come. But anyway, that's it for this one. Mate, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
That's it for this installment of the Full Force Comics Burst. Thank you to my awesome co-host, Brian Hickey. See you guys very soon, and as always,
Full Force!
Yours was way better than mine. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.